Hi everyone! I hope you're all having a great week. Before moving on to my art video for this week, I would like to take you on one little last trek through the woods behind our house because it's the last opportunity I'll have a chance to do so. For 4.5 years, we've had the good fortune to call this beautiful place home. And I can honestly say every time I've traveled the paths behind our house, I have been in awe of all the new discoveries I've made. This place has brought me joy, peace, and so much love. My heart feels very heavy as we prepare to leave. But I know this heaviness is good because it serves as a reminder that my heart has been filled by this place that has given me the space to just be. So today and every day, I feel thankful for the many places I've been blessed to call home. Garu has really loved being here too, but now he's coming to remind me that it's time to head back into the studio. So let's get going with my art video for this week. I actually took this picture of a fallen down tree in our backyard, and I really loved that little crack in the bark, and I thought it was interesting looking, so that's where the inspiration for this painting started this week. Not surprisingly, with everything going on, I'm feeling pretty tired this week, and when I get tired or stressed or anything of the sort, it's always the best for me to just try and keep things as simple as possible. So I'm starting this week's project with a little inspiration from nature, and then I'll keep working on my painting using some of my favorite colors. And of course, because I love bright and bold colors, this painting will definitely be very bright. Before I add any color to my paper, however, I start off by adding a bit of just clear water over the first part of my painting. And then I'm coming in with a color called New Gamboge. It's a really beautiful and bright yellow. It's by Daniel Smith Watercolors, and it's not a color that I use very often, but every single time I pull it out I really love it. It's so bright, and it tends to remain bright as well even after it dries, so it's another one of those colors, kind of like that nickel azo yellow that I love so much, that I love using for that reason. A lot of watercolors will tend to dry a little bit lighter than, and not quite as bright as when they are when they're first applied, and so I love to work with colors that I know I can trust will stay bright. And even though they do tend to stay brighter, I'll probably still go in and intensify the colors by adding more paint with less water. But it's nice to work with colors that just kind of make your soul sing and kind of ooh and ah as you're applying them. This blue is also another color like that, and I really love it because it's also a very bright and beautiful color. Green gold is another color that I really love to work with because it's very bright, and yeah, it tends to remain bright even after it dries, but it can be pretty intense, and so I try not to add too much of it in a painting unless that's what I'm trying to go for. And in this case, I added some of that green, and then I came back in with a little bit more of that blue paint and some water to try and let it spread a little bit. But if I had applied it before I let my paper dry, it would have blended in the blue a little bit more than I actually wanted it to. So having done it this way, it's gonna be there, it's gonna show a little bit of that color that I like, and it's also gonna let that beautiful bright blue shine all on its own. You may be watching this and thinking, that really doesn't look anything like that crack in the tree that she initially was inspired by. And that's completely okay, because the intention is not for me to recreate what I saw in nature. I don't think I could ever do nature justice, honestly. Mother Nature is far better of a creator than I am. But that crack in the bark that was on that fallen tree has inspired me, just because I really like that quirky crack in the bark, and it's kind of helping me develop a focal point for this little abstract painting. And it's going to be completely abstract because by the time I'm done, I'm not even sure it's going to look like anything in particular. It's going to just be one of those little painting projects where I'm creating for the pure pleasure of creating, and I'm playing with colors and trying to see what I can discover as I'm playing with these colors. Sometimes as artists, and maybe, well, in life in general, we put a lot of pressure on ourselves to make things appear or to be a certain way as we're creating or working or doing whatever it is we do on a daily basis. And that kind of pressure just kind of takes the fun and the joy out of doing the things we do. So when I'm painting, especially when I'm painting, I do my very best to try and release that pressure so that I can be fully in the moment and enjoying my process. And because I'm freeing myself from that pressure, I'm leaving myself open to making some discoveries along the way. And maybe if I was putting so much pressure on myself as I was creating, I wouldn't be making those discoveries. So again, it's important to not, I guess, take it so seriously. This is a discovery process as much as it is a creative process. And it's the type of thing that when we work in a way where we're removing the pressure of results in the process, we leave ourselves open to making discoveries and growing and becoming the artists that we want to be. And I think for most artists or most people who create, they want to find ways to create that is their own way. And so, if you were painting alongside of me, for instance, and you were putting pressure on yourself to try and make a painting exactly the same way I was making it, well, you would be missing out on your own creative expression. And you'd also be putting pressure on yourself to accomplish something that might be very difficult. Not because my artwork is so amazing that it's difficult to recreate, but mostly because we're working with mediums that kind of have a mind of their own. Watercolors and watercolor paper, water in particular, they kind of just go with their own flow. And so your brush strokes are unique to yours as mine are unique to me. And when we're moving our products over the paper, we're not going to move them exactly the same way. And that's part of our unique way of imprinting in the creative world. And it's so important to be able to do that. So releasing ourselves from the pressure of having to make things exactly like someone else is making it, or of being attached to a specific result, actually makes the process more fun. This color I'm working with right now is called neutral tint. It's a dark color that's not quite as black, and I guess I love it a lot because I tend to use it in almost all of my paintings. And in a painting like this one, where most of the colors that I've applied so far have been very bright, this darker color helps to bring in some contrast, and it also helps the colors as they are to pop even more because they have something to sort of contrast with them. So I often will use a color like this or another dark color, and then I'll also start to work with white at some point because white and black really help to make bright colors look brighter. And that's sort of one of my little tricks. I'm going to bring in the picture of that crack in the bark of that tree that was the inspiration for this painting again. And the reason I'm bringing it up is that when I saw it, it really caught my attention. So I guess I could say that that crack in the bark was really a focal point for that fallen down tree. And I'm sort of using that as inspiration for creating the focal point in my painting here. Even though it's not going to look anything like the original picture, I still am wanting to create a focal point in my painting along that area where I've created my quote-unquote crack. I'm using my black fountain pen to start drawing attention to some of the little marks that were created as I was painting. The water either left some marks on the paper, or as I was moving my brushes and my paint, some little marks were created. And they're not super obvious, but by using my fountain pen, I can draw some attention to those little areas that I want to draw attention to. Ideas are coming to me as I'm working, and as I'm working, sometimes what I want to create changes. And so that's why for the first couple of little green areas, I only drew a single line. And then when I went around the third one, I thought it'd be nice to do sort of like a squiggly looking line that went around the area a few times. And I liked it so much that I wanted to recreate it in 3 of the other spots. And I'm intuitively leaving it at 3. I have a thing for uneven numbers and for not always making sure that everything is so uniform that it looks a little too perfect. I don't really believe in perfection. So I am creating the way my intuition is inviting me to create, if you will. And it really is an invitation, because when I get these little creative sparks or these little ideas that come to mind, it's up to me to ultimately decide whether or not I am accepting the invitation. And sometimes I'll accept the invitation and then I'll be like, oh, darn, why did I do that? And that's okay, because then as I'm making these discoveries about what I like and what I don't like, I know more moving forward what I'll want to create in some other paintings. So it's really fun to create in this way, because I'm learning to connect with my own inner guidance. And that's a very important part of the intuitive creative process. I really love how the neutral tint and the white are making my colors look even more bright and vibrant. So I'm going to add a little bit more dark contrast using some black India ink and my stylus. I think some star gold would look especially nice against that white and black in my painting right now. So I'm going to add a little bit here, and then I'll add some more on the bottom and on the top as well. This star gold is definitely one of the more iridescent and shimmering golds that I've worked with in watercolors. And I think it's the reason I keep going back to it. It's a really bright, vibrant color of gold, but it also shines so much when it catches the light, and I really like that effect. And it looks especially nice against a matte background, and this matte background that I've created with watercolors is sort of the perfect playground for this gold. When I want to add some vertical lines to my painting, I always find it helpful to have a little bit of a guide to follow. And so I've created 2 wavy lines in pencil that I can later erase. And I'm going to use these as guides to create the vertical lines that I'm working on at the moment. Since my lines are not quite as vertical as I wanted them to be, I'm using some gold to create a little bit of a distraction, and to apply the gold, I'm using the flat end of a crochet needle. My painting is now starting to feel complete, and so I'm ready to take off the tape and do my final reveal. So I'm not really sure what this painting represents or if it represents anything at all, but what I do know is that it was a lot of fun for me to create it. And when I look at it, it kind of gives me the feeling of maybe some amoeba dancing in plasma or something. I don't know. I'm no biology expert in any way, shape, or form, but I think it looks very cellular for whatever reason, and so it's making me smile, and I guess in the end that really is all that matters, that I enjoyed the process and that I enjoy looking at it. What do you think? Little art projects like this one really help to bring some wellness into my life, and I need that right about now. So thank you for joining me on this creative journey. I hope you have a wonderful week and happy creating!